stretch for the Phillies. And they had a bit of a funk post All-Star break. And I'm just curious, when you look at them, do they have the same juice in your mind as they did for the first half of the season?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I picked this team in Baltimore as my World Series teams before the year started, partly with the Phillies anyway, because like you know what they are, right? They know each other. They've been around each other enough. They're battle tested in postseason on the good side and the bad side. And I think when you go through a stretch like this, when you're a good team and you know who you are, you don't concern yourself with anything. Like you don't doubt yourself at all. And I think it's inevitable, Anthony, in the course of a season that even good teams go through a stretch like that. And let's face it, I mean, they were so good early on, and the schedule was easy. I mean, I know players don't want to hear that, but that's a fact of life in the game. And the schedule kind of caught up with them. Just the grind of the season did, for that period there. I think Turner and Harper were both not hitting for a couple of weeks. And I also think that Rob Thompson smartly kind of took his foot off the gas pedal a little bit. They gave Wheels a break during the All-Star break. Suarez was hurt a little bit. They started dialing back the pitch counts a little bit. And I think that players, whether intentionally or not, kind of picked up on that signal like, all right, it's a long season, man. We just can't drive, 80 miles an hour all the way to the finish. And I think that's what you're seeing. And I think definitely you'll respond. You make a good point about the schedule here. It's tough the next 13 games, but look, they weren't playing well and they walked into Dodger Stadium. They played well in that series. So to me, this is a team that's going to rise to the moments.
Yeah, and to your point, it was bizarre around there in a beautiful way. But end of April, May, June, Citizens Bank Park had an October feel to it. And while I thought it was beautiful, Tommy, it's not sustainable. Like, every night the crowd was into it, and it felt like it did in October, and that's just not what baseball is.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you just can't sustain it. Even the best teams, they just can't sustain it. I will tell you, though, if there's one thing I'd be concerned about, and they've certainly time to fix this, it's the bullpen. I mean, I don't know whether it's some fatigue going in here. Listen, you saw what happened with Dominguez and Soto. They got off those guys because they just weren't throwing enough strikes. And Baltimore, to my shock, actually, up and said, "Oh, we'll just fix them." It's not that easy, man. I mean, if a team is in a pennant race and they're not in the circle of trust, and you're picking them up right away, and you think they're going to be in your circle of trust right away, I just think I think Baltimore really did not do a good job at the trade deadline. And to me, I look at what the Phillies did with Soto and Dominguez. I can't blame them for it because these guys just weren't reliable enough, and they weren't taking the ball in the 7th and 8th, 9th innings with a lead. So you move on from that, but the fact is now they've got probably Strom and Hoffman maybe back off them a little bit. I still like the bullpen. Don't get me wrong. I think they're in a phase right now. They are a little bit vulnerable. That's what happens when you win a lot of games, right? You use them winning pieces a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be fine, but I do think that's the one concern I have in the next couple of weeks.
And in my only one, and I'll run this by you, would be Suarez, right? Because they have to have Ranger right. And really what he was during the first couple months of the season, he's your number 3 starter in a game 3. He's a lefty, right? You saw him in the playoffs the last 2 years, very low, like unflappable with all the pressure. So I think they need him right by the playoff time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they've been smart with him, obviously. I'm not sure how the level of the injury that's caused him to be out this long, but they were concerned about his injury. So this is a way to back off him a little bit. I agree with you. He's kind of that swing guy here. I never worry about him in a postseason spot. Strike thrower, field his position well, and is just such a cool customer out there. I mean, I love it when they brought him out of the bullpen because he's a guy who can do that. A lot of guys are like, hey, man, I'm a starter. Don't get me off my routine. He doesn't care. He's like, give me the ball, and I'll go get people out. So you're right. You don't worry about Wheeler and Nola. I don't worry about Suarez at all, but you just want to make sure he's right.
We all silly like the mayor.